Ken, our next speaker is Ken Worrell. We're going to switch over now to solid biomass, and Ken Worrell is a managing director and founder of Worrell Harvesting. Worrell Harvesting is one of the premier private harvesting companies in the country. They have an extensive experience built up over 20 years in managing forestry, in tinning and in clear felling, and they've developed some very unique and forward-thinking techniques over those years, and Ken is very happy to share that with us today. So I'd like you to welcome Ken to the stage.
I'd like to thank IrBEA for giving me this opportunity to tell the congregation here what we've been doing over the last few years. Mainly certification. We're just after getting compliant with RED 2 certification. We have a logwatch traceability system for the forestry owners, and our harvesting system gives us 3 times more biomass per hectare of a tinning. Just a brief introduction on the company. Worrell Harvesting is part of the Worrell Timber Group. We set it up in 1992, and now there's 2 brothers involved in the business with us and 25 employees. We're over 30 years in the forestry business and the harvesting side of it. The last 15 years have been developing the biomass systems. We've worked in a lot of countries in Europe, Ireland of course, Scotland, England, Wales, Germany and France. We're basically a one-stop shop. We purchase timber from timber growers, we manage the sites, and supply logs then to sawmills and biomass to energy users. The company's objective is to drive the business to maximise the return for the grower. This will encourage more growers to plant more trees. That's what it's all about here, and to satisfy the needs of our customers. Harvesting came mechanised in 1992 when we bought our first harvesters and forwarders, and since that we have been using more and more of this technology to get more and more timber being harvested. From the biomass side, we stack the timber in a way that it facilitates drying the timber and getting the moisture content to a lower. Machinery brands we use is John Deere and Ponzi, but we see Komatsu coming onto the scene there as well. Transport, we got into the transport business when we bought our first truck in '98. We operate a fleet of Scania and Volvo trucks now. These trucks are used to transport the logs to the sawmills, but this is where it changes a bit. We use walking floor trailers, but the walking floor trailers go into the forest. Most of our product is chipped in the forest. This process means we can get more volume per hectare. Again, I'm coming back to that point. And in 2014 and 2018, we invested in chippers. And these are mobile chippers that can move from site to site reasonably quick and get to locations as quick as possible. Machines can produce 1,000 tonne of wood chip per day. But I suppose back to the big point, and what I'd like to talk about is why biomass harvest and tinnings? Well, the main reason is you're going to get a higher percentage. You have a high percentage of small trees in your first tinning. It's very important to get those small trees out. It increases the volume to the grower, that he's getting more revenue, and it's better for your forest. Also, what's very important is when you're in your tinning, that the ground is protected correctly, and by using biomass harvesting systems, we can control what brash is left on the site from a point of view when the tree is cut to suit, the log is cut to suit the forest, not the product. So we cut the log of whatever length suits the ground. If the ground is wetter, there's a bigger top left. If it's drier, there's a smaller top left. So that's where the percentage of biomass changes per hectare on sites. We also have a system that if the ground is very good, we leave the top to one side, because the forwarder then can pick up that top and bring it to another part of the site that is travelled a lot, and it may be wet, so it needs that top. If it doesn't need it, it goes into the biomass. The other thing is, with our system, you can get into your first tinning a lot earlier. which is very important. You could have 2 thinnings done. That means the grower has revenue twice. There's more return out of the site. The trees are growing quicker. You get to your clear fell quicker. And this is very important. If you can get to your clear fell by the year less than 30 years, your return is going to be sooner. It's better than waiting another 35 or 40 years to get to your clear fell. At this moment in time, we have 2 sites that I looked at in the last couple of weeks. They were planted in the year 2000, which means they're 23 years of age. These sites are ready for 3rd thinnings. That's going to leave another 3 years or 4 years, they'll be ready for clear fill. So year 26, year 27, those sites will be clear filled. As you can see here, that's given more return to the grower. And that's what I think it's all about from the biomass sector, because it always comes up, are we going to have enough product? Well, this way we will have enough product because we'll triple it, but we'll also get it quicker, which is very important. So mobilising of timber from the forest. We were part of a project back a few years ago. It was called the Simwood project. It was a European project where they were trying to see where can we get more timber in the forests. And we did 3 sites. The first site was a 1st thinning. We take out 1 line in 7, so you take out your line and then thin 3 lines each side. And what was predicted on the site was 445 cubic metres. We harvested the site, sent the site to market. There was 659 cubic metres came off the site. That's an uplift of 215 cubic metres, which is a 48% uplift. Back to my point, it's more revenue to the grower because he's getting more volume per hectare. The second site was the 2nd thinning. What happened here in the 1st thinning, the rack was cut, but standard harvesting methods, if the trees are very small, you can't do anything with the tree, so it's left behind. It's too small for a product. So when we went into 2nd thinning, there was a lot of these trees in it. We took what we were to take out, plus all these small trees. It gave us an uplift of 1,233 cubic metres, which is an uplift of 811 metres cubed, 159% more than was predicted on the site. You need to keep in mind here as well, all the extra volume is all biomass, because the product for the sawmill doesn't change. If it's a log for the sawmill in the tree, you cut that first, you take that first. We then go to our 3rd site, 669 cubic metres. We harvest the site, it was 1,658, nearly 1,000 metres cube of an uplift. All the extra volume, once again, is biomass. That's 148% of an uplift. This is a typical clearfell site that we do. As you can see, if people know the industry, the timber is harvested a completely different way. So what normally happens in the industry is the harvester cuts his rack, timber stacked to one side, and all the brash is underneath the machine. The problem with that, when you go to extract that brash, if you're doing biomass harvesting, all the needles are squeezed together in the brash. The needles finish up going out to the roadside. And as foresters would know, the nutrients, well, some foresters would say the nutrients are in the brash. Most of the nutrients, and when I say most, over 90% of the nutrients are in the needles. So when we harvest the tree, we leave the brash to one side, as you can see from the picture here. That's left there for 6 to 9 months, depends on the time of the year. Going by the summer we had this year, it could be a year, it could be left there, but it's left there till the needles turn brown and start to fall off. We then go in with a forwarder and we extract the brash. When we start to move the brash, any needles that are left on it, they will start to fall off as well. This in turn leaves the site, the needles are left scattered all over the site. The alternative to this is you windrow. So when you windrow, you're pulling all the brash into a row. And these rows are about 12 to 15 metres apart. what you're also doing is, the trees after growing over the last 30 years, needles are on the ground, but when you pull the brash into the windrow, you're pulling the needles from previous, that's been on the ground for the last 30 years, maybe 20 years, whenever they fell off the tree, into the windrow as well. So now in turn what you're doing, all the nutrients on the site, you're pulling it into the wrong part of the site. So between those, the windrows, you have probably 6 rows of trees. So the first row of trees and the 6th row of trees is beside the brash line. What happens here then is, those trees, if they get established and they don't get taken over by weeds or dirt from the nutrients from the windrow, they grow very fast. When they grow very fast, they finish up growing too fast and they're crooked. The market doesn't want crooked trees. Also, the problem is the space. So there's branches on the edge of the trees. The branches will cause knots. That timber will be of lower value, even if it is straight, because there's knots in it. Then that's the first and the 6th row. Then in the 2nd and 5th row, the 1st and 6th is growing so fast, it's suppressing the 3rd and 5th row. So that row of trees is smaller. Now this, I'm talking, it's in your next crop, of course. The only 2 rows of trees that will do okay is your 3rd and your 4th row. Now you go back in to do your thinning in the next crop. Where you should go is either your 3rd or 4th row. You're taking out your best trees. That doesn't make sense. So then you say, well, I'll go into my 1st or 6th row. When you do that, then you're taking out the bad tree, as I spoke about, but you're leaving a big wide gap because there's a gap beside the row. And that leads me on to my next points. Our system then, it increases revenue for the grower because he's getting the brash. There's about 50 to 100 tonne of brash in a clear fell per hectare. Now, why this changes so much is you have to leave enough brash that you don't damage the ground. So it really depends on the site. And it really depends how much you're travelling over that part of the site. So if you take out your windrows, if you take out your brash, you take out your windrows. If you take out your windrows, you're going to have more trees in the next crop. The trees are going to be of higher value because, as I mentioned, you're not going to have knotty trees. 15% of your trees would be knotty trees. You reduce the risk of a weevil because there's nothing for the weevil, which is an insect that kills the small trees. But if you remove the brash, there's less. His home is basically gone. So he'll head on somewhere else, down to the neighbours maybe. No weevil, no reason to spray. The other concern is fires. If you have a good summer, which we didn't have this year, but if you had a good summer, those windrows could burn. And as I mentioned earlier, you're reducing the risk of windrow. You're reducing your harvesting costs the next time around because those trees that are big and rough are more expensive to harvest, which means that you get less for your timber. As you'll see from the next picture, when the site is clean, it's very easy to maintain it and get the next crop going on it. You eliminate the cost of windrowing also. There is a potential, if all the factors went against you, there's a potential of 20,000 per hectare being saved. Now, we know all the factors won't go against you, but even if 25 to 50% of them go against you, that's 5 to 10,000 a hectare that you're losing out on over the life of the crop. We can see here from the picture, why would you leave this product behind? The market is looking for it. The market's screaming out for it. There it is. It's local energy. We don't have to go to expect fuel from Russia. It's carbon neutral, and this product is going to release carbon into the atmosphere anyway when it rots. So this is a site, which is the picture of that windblow. It was harvested the standard way on the right-hand side, but I don't know who harvested. We harvested the left-hand side. As you can see, the block on the left-hand side, the biomass was taken off it. The site is clean, tidy, easy to plant. you see the product along the edge of the road, all that product can be used for energy. And the concern here is always mentioned to me, is the product there? It's there if it's done in the right way. And this is the right way. So we next come to our logwatch system. I've spent the last 5 years developing this system, and the concern was all the time, the way the industry works, the farmer doesn't know where he stands until the product has gone across the weighbridge, and he gets his check in the post a few weeks later. What we've done here is we've built a system to give him total traceability and security of his timber. I've been the last 5 years developing this with $500,000 investment in it, and we see a lot more potential here with it. So who's it really for? Well, it's for everyone in the industry, from transport to harvesting, the whole lot. But mainly, it starts at the beginning with the timber supplier and the customer if he wants it. But what the timber supplier gets, it gives him confidence that what's going on in his forest, he can see live from his phone, from his laptop, or somebody, his daughter or son working in Dublin or outside the country, for example. So he gets a message, an email or a text to say there's activity, that truck, our truck is going into your forest, it's going to be taking a product. In other words, there should never be a truck in the forest without him knowing about it. And that's what's important here. When that truck is loaded and taken to load, it'll cross a weighbridge. Whether it's his weighbridge, or, which is not usually the case, or our customer's weighbridge, the load crosses the weighbridge. The weight docket is updated onto the system, including the forestry docket. When the truck goes into the forest, he puts a paper trail there as well, if the grower wants it. If he doesn't, a lot of growers don't want it, they're happy enough with the system and so on. But there's a paper trail and the system. That is all put up, and he sent a message again. But at any stage, all the first message you're doing is prompt him, there's activity. At any stage, he can log on to our portal, and this is the information he gets: the load ID, where the timber, the date, various information like the job it came from, the products, the weight docket, the forestry docket number, which I mentioned. If he wants a forestry docket, it'll be here, but beside it there's a link that he can click on, and he can download the forestry docket. So he has the manual docket and he has the to compare. Then you have the weight docket, and you have the link to the weight docket as well, which you can download. The truck driver, the truck, the reg, and if we're using a subcontractor, their details will be in there also. So yeah, this is all about giving the grower confidence, which I think is very important to encourage growers to plant more timber. So what do we offer? Forest management. We advise on timber harvesting, felling licenses, road grants, applications, impact statements. So it comes to my next point, which we were very fortunate after a number of years to, with a lot of different hurdles to cross, and thankfully the logwatch system here was a big part of all this, and it's where we started off with certification. We thought we'd be pushed more from an FSC or PEFC certification point of view, but the RED 2 compliance kept coming up, and a month ago we got certified for RED 2 under the KZR. We're also certified. We supply, well, as I mentioned, we supply wood chip, but we also supply firewood. I think certification is very important because, and definitely in the firewood point of view with the WFQA, it's raising the standards. I often tell the story when I was walking into a shop one day, and this woman was picking up, she was looking for firewood, and she picked up a bag of firewood and she put it back down. She picked up another one. She says, "Oh, this one's heavier. I bring this one home." But all she was doing was bringing water home. And thanks to Noel and their team, that gave firewood a bad name, but getting the moisture content lower in timber and help the situation. So what can biomass offer? And biomass is biomass a good story? I think it's a good story. There is things being mentioned here earlier on, and I think they should be considered. There's environmental benefits, economical benefits, job creation. Told to rush on here. The security of energy and supply, which is a big one. Why rely on Russia for gas when we have energy here? Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Ken, thanks very much. It's very interesting to see the system that they've set up and the importance as well of managing our forests, and to see that list of material going out where it's got, you see all the list of pulpwood, but there's also the pallet wood, the sawmill log, to get the maximum out of the forest, but also that critical piece on how you manage the brash afterwards to ensure that the next crop in 30 years' time, you're going to get the maximum amount of good timber out of that you can use for lumber, that you can use for the products we want. First off, biomass is always a secondary product, but we don't want to put in a system that's going to create that's going to, like, if you just using brash wrong is going to actually cause more difficulties for the next crop. And just on that, Ken and a few others have been involved in a panel with ourselves. We've put together a brash harvesting, or a specified biomass harvesting document. They're named brash, so they're going to the railside now. But we've submitted that to the department, and the view is that's going to be used as part of the forestry guidance documents, so that there is a methodology that's recognised by all on how you should handle brash to ensure that you're getting the right protection of ecology, the right retaining of the nutrients, and getting the right crop the next time round. So, Ken, thanks for that as well, obviously.